So this is a video about when I ran 100 miles on a 400 metre athletics track in under 24 hours and how you can do it too. This is crazy, even looking back at this now, right? So it's just a review of what I did, fueling strategy, pacing, what went right and what went wrong. My training for this was pretty unorthodox. I gave myself 5 months. I was already running ultras, like 50k and stuff. But my longest run to date before doing this was 38 miles. My approach to training was, back then, was very much like a Brian McKenzie power speed endurance style. So there's a lot of CrossFit endurance, a lot of intervals, very little distance. So in May, in the run up, so I did the run in October, so I'll give you my mileage. My mileage in May was 99 miles. This is crazy, even looking back at this now, right? So I ran a total of 99 miles in May. June, I ran 167 miles. And so I was upping it a little bit. And my training was twice a day, so I was running twice a day, probably CrossFit in the morning, running in the evening, a bit of both, sometimes 2 runs a day, intervals, a slightly longer run. July, I ran 197 miles. This is so low. August, I did 115 miles. Now, I suffer from a herniated disc in my neck and it flared up in August, so I just struggled massively and it was like, am I gonna be able to do this? Luckily, I got a really good chiropractor friend, Tom Clakins from Binnenden Chiropractic, and he managed to get me a little bit of freedom to stop the pain and the nerve pains and stuff. So September, I was back in the game with 240 miles, and yeah, I think my longest run in training, apart from the ultra trail race I did, was 15 miles on a track. I don't know what I was thinking, but that was that. You know, just keep it simple. CrossFit versus long distance. Well, we find out what happened anyway. So I've always been about keep it simple. Don't complicate things. Find out the most efficient way of doing things, what works fastest and the best, and you get the best bang for your buck. So my strategy on the day was to cover a 5 mile per hour pace. So ultimately, at the end of 24 hours, that would have, you know, I should have, if I just kept that pace going, this was my thought process, is that I would have covered about 120 miles. But I was allowing a buffer because I wanted to cover 100 miles in 24 hours. This was for charity as well, for men's mental health and suicide prevention. So I needed to keep going for 24 hours, but I wanted to bring it in at around about 100 miles. So 5 mile per hour pace was my strategy. Yeah, there were issues, so that buffer was very much needed. The main, again, so the strategy was run 25 minutes, keeping the heart rate around 120. If I was 130 was too high for me, I wanted to be at around 120. So run for 25 minutes, walk for 5 minutes. Now the reason for walking for 5 minutes, I had a chat with Dan Lawson, a friend of mine, an ultra runner, and a couple of other people. really that walk was just to keep moving. You know, we didn't want to stop really. If you stop for too long in these sort of events, you can get too comfortable, you don't want to move. So the walk was twofold. It would allow me to get calories in, get some food, you know, change some clothing while I'm still moving, and also get some blood flow back through the legs. And it proved to be very, very efficient plan. So every hour, in effect, I was getting like a 10-minute walk break, but still covering distance. 200 to 300 calories per hour. So I had a team of guys around me. So they'd hand me one Tailwind, plus I'd have 500 ml of water or an electrolyte, which was precision hydration. So depending on how much I was sweating and how I felt, it would either be water or electrolyte, but I would be, you know, they'd make me drink that 500 ml plus the Tailwind. And I'd have a snack, you know, a bit of rice pudding or pot noodle or something, you know. Early on I was able to eat, a bit later on I was hiding food from people and stuff. But you know, they'd hand me a pot noodle and I'd hide it under a cone, and so I've eaten it. It's just how it goes. And then this is important, every 4 hours I would have a Tailwind Rebuild, so it's a protein recovery drink. But you just can't run these distances without getting protein in. You know, I just felt that was the best way, and that, you know, that really worked out quite well for me. Just going through some of these notes here. So the first 4 to 5 hours, bear in mind this is October in the UK, it rained. And it didn't just rain, the heavens opened up and it absolutely pissed it down. And I was wearing lightweight canvas running shoes. And although I had the toe socks on, my little toes started to blister within that 4 or 5 hours, which was not good. Luckily, one of my team managed to go and get me a pair of my trail shoes, which were quite a New Balance wider toe box, and I ended up doing the last 70 miles in those shoes, in trail shoes on a track. Yeah, you know, everything was running all right. I had the team of guys around me running in shifts throughout, so that all went really well. We had, unfortunately, although it was a running track, but it was in a residential area, so they allowed us to use the track, but we had to turn the lights off, the floodlights, at 10 o'clock. So we were plunged into darkness, which kind of changed my mood quite a lot. And I got to around 2 o'clock in the morning and I just had a real low point, and I just got really angry with everything. And I just said, look, this is it. I need to go and lay down for 20 minutes. And I crawled off, changed the clothes, changed my socks, and I closed my eyes and I slept for 2 minutes actually, got back up, and that was enough to refresh me. It's amazing what just a couple of minutes sleep can do. The highlight of all this running around and around the track was every 4 hours as well, when we had the protein rebuild, which was like really nice and sugary salted caramel. We'd switch directions, so it's the same as the Transcendence run, or pretty much any track run. You switch it around every 4 hours, and you would not believe what a highlight that is. Looking forward to that switching direction, it's mental. So we got through that. Sunrise was amazing. It was just, although it was a bit of a cloudy day, just to see the light coming up and you'd been moving through the night, it was just, I don't know, it's something else. So I finished 100 miles in 19 and a half hours, and then we just walked in 30 minutes to fill in the time, because it was, ultimately it was a 24-hour run. And post that I got hypothermia, and I ended up in hospital. I got cold very, very quickly, and while everybody was celebrating and everything else, I was starting to sort of shiver, and yeah, my blood pressure dropped very quick and it was all going a bit dark. But you know, a few checkups, everything was all right. Had a cup of warm tea and everything else. So yeah, I think the worst thing was, you know, the blisters on each of my little toes. I never had blisters before, but just for the wet, I mean, it was torrential. I had that treated, but I also had tendonitis in one of my feet, my left foot, which caused me a few issues. I had to have a bit of a boot for a few days because that was a bit painful. But 9 days later, I was running again. Did a gentle 4 miles. The following week, I was back to running twice a day. And then 4 weeks after that, I did another 6-hour ultra endurance event. I think we covered 31 miles, so 50k. I didn't run the full 6 hours, but I smashed out a 50k in about 4 hours, 20 minutes, something like that. So the body was in good shape. I think all in all, the thing that, you know, helped me do this was a solid plan. That nutritional plan, the pacing plan, sticking to it religiously. You know, the team knew that if I refused a drink or a Tailwind, that was a no deal. I needed to keep taking those fluids on board. I needed to keep moving. There was very little time sitting around, apart from just, you know, having my feet sorted and stuff, and some stomach issues part way through towards the end, which saw me off track for just a little while. But yeah, all in all, went really well. So, you know, anyone is thinking of doing it, just get yourself a good plan together, figure out what works for you, and yeah, any questions, drop them in the comments box below. I've probably missed a few things, but if I can be of help at all, then yeah, just drop a comment. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. It helped me do more videos and sort of grow this channel really, and yeah, give you some better content maybe.